Hello dear Odooers. In this video, we are going to cover some key concepts you'll hear us mention throughout this e-learning course about Odoo Spreadsheet and Odoo Dashboards. As we learn to create custom reports and dashboards using dynamic Odoo data, it's important to have an understanding of models, records, fields, views, and domains. To see these concepts in action, we'll look at some examples from the Sales app. Let's get started. First of all, let's talk about models. In Odoo, models are used to structure and organize data in an app or module. They represent different business concepts, such as a sales order, a lead, or a product. Let's access the product template model, for example. To do that, we'll go to the Sales app, then navigate to Products. Before we go any further, let's activate Developer Mode. This is going to let us see some extra information that's usually not visible. The easiest way to activate Developer Mode from within any app is to open the command palette by pressing Ctrl-K, then type Debug and select the first option. You can see that Debug Mode is now active thanks to the little bug icon at the top of the screen. If you click this icon when you are in an app, you'll immediately see on which Odoo model you're in. So right now, we are in the product template model. Each individual product we see here is a record within that model. Let's click on these yellow boots to take a closer look. Every record in Odoo contains many different pieces of information, which are stored in fields. These are many different types of fields in Odoo, and we can see some of them here. First, let's take a look at some simple fields. These contain basic values. For example, the product field is a text field that contains the product name. The sales and purchases fields are checkboxes, also known as Boolean fields. These are essentially yes or no fields that indicate whether a product can be sold or purchased. The invoicing policy field is a selection field where a single value can be chosen. Now that we have activated Developer Mode, we see these little blue question marks beside the name, like here beside Invoicing Policy. The first bullet point shows the display name of the field. The second one shows the field's technical name. Sometimes you'll need to know a field's technical name, so this is one way to find it. We can also see information like the type of field, in this case, a selection field. There are also a few relational fields in this record. The relational fields are used to link to and display data from records on another model. The sales tax field, for example, is a many-to-many field linked to the tax model. A single tax rate can be assigned to many products, and many products can share the same tax rate. If we hover over the question mark, we can see the field type in the fourth bullet point, and the related model in the last one. In this case, the related model is account.tax, which is the technical name of the tax model. The category field, on the other hand, is a many-to-one field linked to the product category model. Many products can be assigned to one category, but a product can only belong to one category. There's one very important field that's typically hidden, but it's worth mentioning at this point. That's the ID field of a record. When a record is created within a model, it's giving a unique numerical ID that it keeps for its entire lifespan. This ID is always present in the URL of a record. Here, the ID is 33. While we are still talking about fields, there are two other handy ways to find the technical names of fields when Developer Mode is activated. First, if we are in an app, as we are right now, we can click on the little bug icon at the top. As we saw earlier, you can see the model you're in, but we can also click on fields. This opens a list of all the fields of the current model, with the technical name of the field in the first column and the display name in the second column. Another way is via the main app screen. Here, we type / then fields. Then select this entry. This opens a list of literally every field present in our database. By clicking inside the search bar, we can group by model. This makes it easier to find the technical name of a field from a specific model, let's say the account model. Knowing how to find a field's technical name can be very useful when you are using Odoo Spreadsheet to create custom reports and dashboards. The next important concept we'll look at is views. For this, I'm back in the Sales app. Let's remove this My Quotations filter. Earlier, we talked about models, which determine what data is available. Well, views define how data from a model is displayed. In some cases, a view can even combine data from multiple models, for example, when it includes one-to-many or many-to-one relational fields. The important thing to remember is that one model can have several views. In other words, different ways to see the data. There are also various types of views. You can see these views types at the top or right of the screen. So, for example, in our sales model, the default view is a list of all quotations and sales orders. In the top right of the screen, you can see the list icon selected. Each record is represented by a row with fields represented as columns. I can even add a field. Let's add the creation date, or remove a field. Let's delete the activities. If we click on the first record, the form view of the records open. Here, in the first section, we can see details about the customer and the creation and expiry dates of the quotation. Down here, in the Order Lines tab, we see which products are included in the quotation, along with information like the quantity and unit price. This Order Lines field is a one-to-many field displaying data directly from the sales order lines model. Because we have developer mode activated, if we hover over the column headers, we can see model sale.orderline in the third bullet point. So this is an example of how a view can show data from more than one model. Let's go back to the list of all our quotation and sales order by clicking Quotation in the breadcrumbs. If we want to analyze the data further, we can insert this list view into an Odoo spreadsheet by clicking the cog icon, then Spreadsheet, then Insert List in Spreadsheet. We'll cover this in more detail in another tutorial. Speaking of analyzing data, when it comes to reporting, many apps have a reporting menu with dedicated reporting views. If we click on Reporting Salesperson, for example, we see a sales analysis by salesperson. Here, the default view is a graph view, indicated by the icon on the top right corner. The default type of chart is a bar chart, but we could change this to another type of chart, like a bar chart, if we want. Clicking on a segment of the chart would take us directly to a list of the underlying data. Let's click here on Charlotte. So you see how that works. And now we see all Charlotte's quotes and sales order. Let's go back to the chart by clicking on the breadcrumbs. Again, this view type can be inserted into an Odoo spreadsheet by clicking into Insert in Spreadsheet. The other common reporting view is the pivot view. So let's click the pivot icon in the top right corner. Here, you can change or add dimensions to analyze the data in a different way. For example, let's remove the sales team dimension at the top and replace it with the order date per quarter. We can also change the measure to see the total amount of sales rather than the quantity. Again, this could be inserted into another spreadsheet by clicking on the button Insert in Spreadsheet. You can find out more about inserting Odoo data into spreadsheet in later tutorials and in our documentation. The last topic we'll cover in this tutorial is domain. First of all, what is a domain? Well, a domain is a list of conditions used to filter data. It defines which record should be included in or excluded from a view or operation. Let's jump back into the Sales app to take a look at how these work. When you open a view in Odoo, like this list view of the sales order model, often a domain has already been defined using a filter. Here in the search bar, for example, we can see that the data is being filtered to show my quotations. Let's click on the filter icon to see what the current domain actually looks like. What this is basically saying is that we only want to see the record where the field salesperson is equal to UID, which means the user ID of the current logged in user, so me. And because we have activated developer mode, we are also seeing the actual code for this domain here in the code editor. Let's add another condition so we can see domains in action. To do that, we click New Rule. Let's say we want to filter only the records that are in quotation sent or confirmed, meaning no draft quotation or canceled sales order. In this case, we first need to select the right field. So let's type status and select it. Then we need the right operator. So I'll change this to is in. Lastly, well, let's select the option quotation sent and sales order. You can see in the code editor that the code gets updated as we define the rule. If we wanted to go even further, let's say to show only records that include a specific product, we can add a relational filter. To do that, we click on New Rule again. Right now, we are on the sales order model. And if you remember, it's via the order lines field that this model retrieves the product field from the sales order line model. So we search for order lines and then follow the arrow to go through to the sales order line model. And here I can search for product template and select it directly. Let's say that the product template should be equal to boots. Notice here in the code editor that the boots are represented by the record with the ID 33, which we talked about earlier. This filter will match all the rules listed. So now when we click search, the list only includes send quotation and confirmed sales order that include our boots. If we inserted this list view into a spreadsheet right now, the list would keep this defined domain. However, it's worth noting that even after Odoo data has been inserted into your spreadsheet, you can still edit the domain directly within the spreadsheet. This is done in the Properties panel. The live data in your spreadsheet is then updated to reflect the new domain. More about that in later tutorials. So, let's summarize what we've learned in this tutorial. In your database, you have different models, each containing a series of fields used to store data. Every time a record is created within a model, it's assigned a unique ID that never changes. Each model has several views, which allow you to interact with the model's data in different ways. There are also many different types of views. List views, pivot views, and graph views can be inserted directly into an Odoo spreadsheet to be analyzed and manipulated further. And thanks to the connection between the spreadsheet and your database, the data stays up to date. Lastly, domains are a list of conditions used to control what data is visible in a view, and they are often defined using filters via the search bar. As well as being able to control the domain of a view within an app, when you insert a view into a spreadsheet, you can still modify the domain without having to insert the data again. That's it for this video. Now you're up to speed on the basics, terms and concepts you'll hear us talk about in the rest of this series on Odoo Spreadsheet and Odoo Dashboards. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.